for joining us here on this Saturday morning, and especially to the coordinator to Prime Minister, Rumina Khurshid, who flew back from Cop29 that was being held in Riyadh only this morning, and that shows her dedication that despite her early morning flight, she is with us. I'm also thankful to two honorable justices from Lahore High Court and Sindh High Court, who has spared time and joined. I think it after every cop, let me repeat it once again. There is no good or bad cop. Good and bad cop, they are in real life, but in multilateral negotiations, all the cops are equal. So Cop29 was as good or as bad as the previous 28 cops were, and we should keep this thing in mind. The second, the success of any multilateral negotiation, or for that matter any negotiation, can be measured when everyone leaves the venue equally unhappy. And this happened with the Cop29 as well. It was not a one-sided Cop, and of course it was a multilateral negotiation where you had 200 plus delegates trying to convince each other, 200 plus parties trying to convince each other, and of course, there can be certain positive or negative things that we can pick upon. But one thing that I would like to point out in Pakistan, I think the Cop29's output is being measured from a very Western lens. And I also wrote in my piece last Sunday that in such negotiations, there is a science, there is data, and there is geopolitics. And I think that somehow this geopolitics that is actually trying to put shadows on the outcomes of Cop29. The first thing first, Azerbaijan, I think we must appreciate that it actually delivered the COP in less than 8 months. So usually the host governments, in that case, for example, Australia, the most probable host of COP31, knows 2.5 years in advance that it would be hosting its next COP. Azerbaijan became a host of this COP only because it was difficult for this COP to be held in Eastern Europe, where it had to be taken place due to Russia-Ukraine war, and that's why a neutral venue was chosen where all parties could come. And despite this small notice and little time, I being a member of International Advisory Committee working closely with the COP presidency, I know that the number of online meetings and in-person meetings which were being held to make this COP success, those were never unprecedented. The second important thing that we need to keep in mind that this COP started with the victory announcement of President Donald Trump, who had already announced that one of the first things that he would do after taking charge of office, that he will once again withdraw from Paris Agreement. Now, US withdrawing from Paris Agreement would have huge repercussions on whatever outcome that we discussed. And that has actually dampened the expectation from the start. The second important thing that we need to keep in mind that it's not only US. EU was quite reluctant to make any commitment. I know again, being a sort of quasi-insider, that this number, 250 to $300 billion number was there from the very start of COP. And presidency has been trying to push EU that they should declare this number in the very beginning so that the negotiation can take place. But the EU was reluctant to announce it, and they deliberately wanted to push it to the last days of the COP so that there would be very little time for developing countries to negotiate on it. Had this number been on table in the first couple of days of COP, negotiators, they could have negotiated well in the next 10-12 days to discuss it, but of course presidency can only facilitate, presidency cannot announce or make a decision on behalf of parties. The fourth important thing that I want to highlight here, again in my informal discussion with EU negotiators, they were reluctant of, one of the reasons they were reluctant, and there was no bad intention from their perspective, as I said, everyone has to be equally unhappy. They could foresee the electoral, due to election, some changes in EU governments. So we know that there would be a snap election in Germany in February, March, where perhaps the next government may not be very environment friendly. We have seen the French Prime Minister losing a vote of confidence, and now again one can expect, depending upon how the coalition works, slightly right to the center government in France as well. We have also seen the Romanian election being declared null and void by the court. So most of these geopolitical things, I think they had their effect on COP outputs. Another important thing that I want to highlight here, that in the second week there was this G20 summit in Brazil. Now COP dates, they are actually announced at least a year in advance. Now having a G20 summit parallel to COP, to me it was, it also, even if it was a coincidence, I don't, even if it was no malintention involved in it, but it actually, again, when all the G20 leadership was in Brazil and not attending the COP, that gives wrong signals and wrong messages. And my very final point, most of you would have seen the negotiator from our neighboring country speaking very emotionally against the deal in the last day. India never objected the COP outcome in writing. So they had consented with the outcome. Otherwise, there could have been no outcome at all. So they gave their consensus and consent on the outcome, but they bashed very strongly in the final plenary. So that is, I think, somehow that tells you the type of geopolitical this influence on COP. Having said it, I think while we regret that international community lost an important opportunity to take it further from COP28 to whatever was decided there, to make some quantum leap, and the result could have been better. But at least on three fronts, there is some development. First is on NCQGs, and again the technical experts, they will be telling you about NCQGs. My own feel is that now is the time we need to take into account, both in our NDCs as well as in our demand, the inflation impact when we talk of climate finance. So the climate finance that was committed in 2009, $100 billion per year, if you take the impact of US inflation there, that $100 billion from 2009 to 2022, when it was actually actualized, it had already got reduced to about $65 billion. So now we are talking of $300 billion by 2035, and we take US 15 years inflation average 2.75 in effect, it would mean that this number would get reduced by at least 25% by the time it actually gets materialized. So while now the focus of multilateral climate negotiation has shifted away from climate and from centigrades and from degrees to billions and trillions of dollars, I think we need strong financial negotiators in our climate negotiation who can take into effect the impact of inflation, who can take into impact of interest rate, and who can take into effect the how to avoid double accounting and the greenwashing in the commitments. That is very important. Otherwise, these numbers they will not matter anything to anyone. But yes, developing countries, they sacrificed and they reverted from their demand of $1.3 trillion. And by the way, this number was not any second number that came through some whimsical divine revelation. This number was given by an independent high-level financial expert group that was appointed by United Nations on the day 3 of the COP, that the world required $1.3 trillion to counter the impact of climate change. So it was not my number or Azerbaijan numbers or America's number. That was the independent high-level expert group number. And we have seen $300 billion commitment there. We have also seen visible progress on Article 6, the carbon credit. All of us, we know that CBAM would be a challenge to our exports, and at least this progress on Article 6, internationally accepted transferable mitigation outcomes, that is something we should be capitalizing upon, and we should work to improve on it. And finally, operationalization of loss and damage fund, where we still don't have tangible money to distribute, but these three, they are, I think, important achievements from Cop29. Now, to conclude, and I know Justice Jawad would be presenting in his keynote address, highlighting some of the aspects. I think now we are at a point where we clearly know that US would withdraw. Now we have three options. The first option with the world is that all of us will follow the suit of United States and let the humanity perish and let the humanity suffer on the hands of extreme heats and extreme floods and uncertainty and unpredictability. The second option that we have is to do nothing and wait until next US elections, and again, if there is a change of command, US again joins the Paris Agreement and start our work on it and stay at status quo. And the third and the sensible approach is that US withdrawal has actually left some leadership vacuum. And now it is up to G77 plus China, now it's up to EU, now it's up to other countries to fill in that vacuum through their higher ambitions, through their higher commitments, and try to fill in that gap so that the humanity and the world doesn't feel the consequences of a world which is very rapidly being turned into a unipolar world. And I'm referring to President Trump's recent announcement whereby he threatened BRICS countries of imposing 100% tariff if they try to bring an alternative to US dollar as a reserve currency. So I think the mere fact, and I'll conclude here, for me the success of COP is in the fact that COP is held every year. If this forum was not there, there was no place to raise our concerns, there was no place to achieve the inches that we have achieved, and there was no place to learn from our successes and failure and to plan better. So this forum in itself has a value. We are thankful to Azerbaijan for holding it at a short notice, and we are looking forward to Brazil. Now, those of you who feel that COP is not delivering, United Nations is not delivering, they should keep in mind the fate of SARC. Most of us were frustrated that SARC is not delivering, but once the SARC became dysfunctional, we lost the opportunity whereby our South Asian heads of governments and heads of states, they could at least agree to disagree on many things. So now everyone is trying to do whatever they could do. So I think we should cherish the value of this multilateralism, and we should try to strengthen it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us.